having all of us here, and thanks for the beautiful blessing that was read. That was lovely. I'll try to speak to this, but really more importantly, I want plenty of time for Q&A, as this is not your typical merger here with Northwell. We are over the moon in terms of what this can provide to us. So my large remote control, Jay, will take us away. All right, so we'll talk about the Northwell Health affiliation, the community update, something that within the state of Connecticut, we're going to just give you some local community updates, but as part of the affiliation agreement, we are required for the next 5 years to report to the community. Our first one will be Tuesday in the auditorium. Generally, we'll get the most interest figuring out what the 100,000 foot view is, and then through 5 years, I'm usually speaking to myself in the crowds, but we have to fulfill our obligation to the state of Connecticut. Exciting hospital projects, and then plenty of time for Q&A.
So Nuvance Health, everybody watching, is now.
Yeah. Cool. So in that naming convention here, we expect this to go away in October, November? Yeah, so then we're gonna really jump full steam into Northwell. This took us approximately, God knows, 3.5, 4 years before everybody had their signage, and then we were in due diligence to talk to Northwell. So this is really wonderful, and the naming convention will always have the hospital first. So here you have over a century of brand equity in Norwalk Hospital. Northwell doesn't take the primary seat. Norwalk Hospital will. So on May 1st, we announced that this was official. We started talking, I signed my non-disclosure agreement December of 2023 and toured some people on December 26th, which wasn't suspicious whatsoever, walking around the hospital to look at the facility. But we've had partnerships with Northwell on a whole host of different things over the years. So this is by far, not only from an expansion standpoint, but from a geography standpoint, to have something in geographic proximity without any overlapping areas is really wonderful as we go to grow and really gain efficiencies, and I'm happy to talk about that. When you think though of a team of over 100,000 employees, 20,000 physicians, we have 26, 28 hospitals. There are over 1,000 ambulatory sites within the network. It's really, really impressive of where they're going and where they're going to be. We're already, from a Northeast perspective, the largest health system in the Northeast, probably the 6th largest in the United States, and it's just going to keep growing as those who are interested, and we were chatting at the table, how are you able to do this when everything you deliver at the hospital is reimbursed at a loss? So what's their secret sauce in being able to do that? Because we lose money on every Medicare patient that comes through the door. Go ahead, Jay. And it's not us, and everybody in this business does. So when you start to look at the geography of Northwell, they started with one hospital. And I had the pleasure of sitting with Michael Dowling, who will be retiring. He's the current president and chief executive officer of Northwell, and we were in the Norwalk community Tuesday and got to sit and have lunch with them for 2 hours. But they started with one hospital, and then everywhere they went to compete, they said, "You're crazy. How are you going to compete with Mount Sinai? And how are you going to compete with Memorial Sloan Kettering? And how are you going to compete?" And now, as you see, they've totally circled the wagons, and they are the largest player in that area. But you see just the geographic proximity of everything couldn't be more perfect in terms of what we can do, and how they do it is really what's more impressive. So in the case of an emergency, for instance, they have centers all over to deploy things not like water. They can bring a whole tractor trailer that could provide air conditioning for your entire hospital. Things that you would have to go contract out for, they have in these emergency hubs, geographically located throughout the system. If there's an emergency, there are teams that will deploy to that area to provide resources to your local hospital. The resources they have at their disposal, if you were to think about many hands makes light work versus on the finance side, saying, geez, that costs a lot of money, how are we gonna pay for it? They do everything, and those who work with me understand that they come in tow with an army, and you're like, wow, how is that possible? But when you realize that they're a top 100 employer in the United States, people don't leave that organization. So you're not paying for that turnover. You're not paying for things that we get accustomed in healthcare to do, like a 20% turnover rate is not acceptable. How do you appeal to those that we employ, as well as how do we provide continuing education opportunities for folks to never leave our organization and advance throughout their career in the system? So it's really, really exciting for us. We're big now, but this is gonna be enormous, I think, truly across the Northeast. So right now, we are a 366 licensed bed. I'm proud to say that. So when I came to Norwalk, we were in the top 150 hospital from health grades, and over the last 2 cycles, we've been the only hospital in Connecticut and one of the top 50 hospitals in the United States. This is based on your quality outcomes. These aren't just, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend. This is, real performance, and we couldn't be more proud of what we're doing. And as you look at what does a level 2 trauma center mean, we provide, you come to us, we have to have people that are available within 15 minutes of that trauma to provide any service that you need. Our aspirations now will be, there's only 2 level 1 trauma centers in the state of Connecticut. One's in Hartford, one's at Yale. And we have aspirations to be that in Fairfield County, because then it could be us, and then you're dealing with New York City to be able to provide this level of service. To provide that service is very costly. So as we talk about finance, we have to have people on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year in every specialty that you would need. So you see the expense of being able to do that and to provide that care. The other thing though is, in Fairfield County, there's a hospital like on every exit, right? So we're all level 2 trauma centers. And you're like, so we all have to do this to compete against each other, which again becomes an expense that, from a competitive advantage and a business advantage, you have to say, what is it that we need in our community? Every person that has a level 1 need ends up getting shipped out from Greenwich, from Stamford, from Norwalk. They have to go to Yale or go down to the city. So wouldn't it be nice that we can do this? Because Norwalk Hospital is unique. We own our own ambulance. We are the 911 service for Norwalk and all the surrounding communities. So our ability to do that is much easier than others to do that. So we are working with all the integration teams within Northwell to start not only to talk about EMS, what are the services we need in the community, as well as what are the programs we can have to enhance the services that we provide in the greater Fairfield County and Norwalk area. All right, Jay?
Peter, could I ask a question there? Are you saying you want to go to level 1?
Yes.
Okay.
At some point, which will
The
take.
slide highlights that you're at level 2, but your point is you want to get up to the next level, which is level 1.
Correct. So at lunch Tuesday with Michael Dowling, it was amazing, to be able to actually talk Norwalk strategy with him. And so where my office is in Norwalk, we're kind of overlooking 95, and on a nice clear day, you can see Long Island Sound. So he keeps turning around and looking at the highway, and he's like, this is the place where the level 1 trauma center needs to be. So with that, obviously is considerable investment, but then what comes along with that is more programmatic opportunities and offerings for those who receive care in that community. So when we get to talking about the tower and you see the price tag on that, you'll realize that it's not only a significant investment, but their commitment to not only Nuvance to the system is just amazing. So what we do, the little engine that could here at Norwalk though, is here we still do research. We think of Yale as research, but you know, what's the research that's going on at Norwalk? And Dr. Rich Frank, who is an expert in pancreatic cancer, his study just got published, and I believe he may have identified genetically a link between new onset diabetes and pancreatic cancer. So we know those who have pancreatic cancer, usually by the time you're diagnosed, you're at end stage, and it's a horrible disease and disease process to have. And although the lifespan with some of the therapies extended a bit, with this study, we had patients enrolled that were either new onset diabetics, or there were folks that had very stable diabetes that all of a sudden became uncontrolled diabetics. Through this study, we identified, we had patients identified, the very first patients to have early stage pancreatic cancer due to something as simple as being referred to an oncologist that specializes in pancreatic cancer by primary care if all of a sudden they were a new onset diabetic. Really fascinating research to start to say, boy, we don't, you know, it's great to have all this fancy stuff, but boy, if we can avert this on the front end by something as simple as saying, you know what, let's go to Dr. Frank and let's look at this and let's enroll you in this study. So this is published here, and the reason here, Jean Beard, not Jean, that's Nancy, Jean's her husband. Jean and Nancy are very large supporters of, and we'll see this with Women's Health with Jean, but they also made Rich and Adam Borokoff endowed chairs in their respective areas of oncology with very generous support. And without philanthropic support, you cannot do these research projects and have the number of staff that are needed to be successful in doing this. So her vision and confidence in us, and this is the Beard son, and I can't remember his name. Greg. Wonderful guy, and he'll be kind of managing their foundation, Future State, but all of us were involved to celebrate this. It was a total surprise to these two docs, and they're like, yeah, this is a big group of people to, you know, go over a research study, and we were able to present this. So it was a really wonderful event, outstanding work. Adam Borokoff, he came from the Trinity Health System. We are working on therapies within the hospital right now with liquid tumors, so you know, your multiple myelomas, et cetera, to use bite therapy, which is a therapy that can help cure multiple myeloma, but it's more broad-based and generic to the disease process itself versus to the person. So CAR T therapy is the next therapy, and we have been working with the University of Pennsylvania, who invented CAR T therapy, and they are looking now to move those type of patients into the community so they can do continuous research at UPenn to be able to do that. So we're working with UPenn, we're working with obviously Northwell to figure out how do we bring that type of service locally, so if and when you're diagnosed, you don't have to go outside of your community to receive that therapy. With that therapy, your blood's taken out of your body, it's shipped to University of Pennsylvania, it's all modified, infused back into you, and that's your treatment. Now, it comes at a 7-figure price tag, but Future State, I'm talking 3 years from now, we'll be able to do that probably with a little machine like this sitting in the hospital. So it starts to become very mind-blowing, but you know, the research and development part of that, probably the 20 years before that, now we're going to be able to, with many of our relationships, provide that level of care at Norwalk Hospital, and it's really not provided anywhere else. So if we can move on, Jay, probably still on the Nancy theme. So Women in Wellness, the other slide will show Nancy Beard. We opened the Nancy Beard Women's, there you go, we'll go backwards. So Nancy, we opened a Women's Wellness Center. So about 3 years ago, we met with Nancy and Jean, and this speaks to commitment to the wishes of our donors. We sat in the boardroom and said, here's what we'd like to do. And for Nancy and Jean to have the confidence in us that we can build out her expectations. This is in iPark. This is down there on Route 7, and it is amazing. You can get everything from OBGYN to your breast surgery care to your mammography, acupuncture, cancer care, cardiology, midwifery, you name it, it's all under one roof. And the whole idea there, one, is for convenience. Two, to align you with providers that are in those specialties, so we're not having to send you home to have another test or have you have to leave this physical space. Right now, we have about 108,000 square feet in this iPark space, and that's where LA Fitness is, for those who aren't familiar with that area. And there's going to be a condo, there's gonna be hotels. So we have the opportunity really to build out that space in a much greater fashion. So we anticipate to not only have 108,000 square feet, but expand to a greater footprint, not only to provide the entire array of services, but to also provide you with kind of a one-stop shop. What's important here is we get to the tower project, and Jay, you can go to the other Women on Wellness. It's a variation on the theme here. We had this event, you notice I wasn't attending, this event here, and Harlan Stone is wonderful. He always donates that space. But as we talk about the tower, we had to spend 4+ years moving people out of the hospital. And we had to find a place for them to go, because if you're in the building, we can't knock it down. So 28.5 million-ish in the iPark facility, and 40 Cross Street, where our ambulatory surgery center is. We have about 70,000 square feet. That's all under a master lease. What we did take great advantage of during COVID was to renegotiate very long-term leases, which were a big advantage to us, allowed us to take advantage of tenant improvement dollars and build multi-specialty spaces in multiple areas. We have Wilton Wellness a little up the road. And part of my trip with Michael Dowling this week was to go look at the ambulatory spaces, look at where we are now, what are the services that we can add, and then what in the other communities that we serve are the services that we need, that there's a demand for, and that we can put in the market as soon as possible for that. Also, with the relationship with Northwell, Go Health, you've seen some Go Health urgent cares. Go Health was originally a partnership with Northwell and Go Health. Thank you, Jay. See, I did review this presentation. Any Go Health, so up where I live in Northwest Connecticut, that partnership's with Hartford Healthcare. Not because Northwell is partnering with Hartford Healthcare, it's because the Go Health business is Go Health and Northwell, and whoever their partners are in that region, that's the other name. So we have